It's Brian Preston, the money guy.
Now let's talk about how do you actually get a good deal on the vehicle since we've kind of moved past the purchase process. I've already talked about research is your friend.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, guys, remember how I was just talking about I'm bothered by buying a Tesla that you don't get that edge. Fortunately, the lion's share of car purchasers are still getting rewarded for that edge of doing research.
Mm-hmm.
Go and do the work that others won't do. Find out what things are worth. Find out what MSRP. Find out what invoices, and find out if there's even more. And we can kind of go through each one of those.
Yeah, that's great. You said you threw out some vocabulary there. And again, anytime we ever throw out vocabulary, we want you guys to be aware of that. So you really need to understand the three components when it comes to buying the car. And the first component you just kind of mentioned is purchase price, right? Well, purchase price, which sounds pretty easy, surprisingly, the dealerships have found a way to make it very, very confusing. You go in, and you're like, well, how much does this car cost? You'll get like 4 different answers. So we want to kind of straighten that out for you. So the first is MSRP. And what is MSRP? It's just the manufacturer's suggested retail price, or this is the sticker price. It's what the car builder is recommending that the dealership sell the price for. It's their recommended sales price.
I think it actually represents manufacturer's sucky ripoff price.
Did you just make that up right now?
Yeah, kind of.
I
couldn't figure. I wish I could have made something better with the M.
Manufacturer's sucky ripoff price. All right, that
so
works.
I mean, it's not the real price. That's what they're going to tell you. That's what the sticker price on the car is. Mm-hmm. You're not paying that. If you pay that, something's wrong. You're doing the process all wrong.
So then the next one is there is this thing called the dealer's invoice. Well, this is the price that appears in the invoice that the manufacturer sends to the dealer. However, big asterisk here, it may not actually be what the dealer paid for that car.
Yeah, dealers have gotten smart. They know that, hey, you can go on the internet, you can figure out what the MSRP price is, you can also figure out what the invoice price, and I'll tell you, this is what we're paying for this car. Nope. Because look, there's multiple things going on behind the scenes. In a way, they're telling you the truth, but they're not telling you the whole truth. Mm-hmm. Because recognize the manufacturer does deals all the time. They'll do holdback deals. They'll also do how many volume deals, meaning that if a dealership does a certain quantity of vehicles, they'll give them rebates on it. Mm-hmm. There's all kind of additional ways that you can make money on vehicles. So even if it's a dealer invoice, you can buy below invoice if you catch the dealer when they're in their right incentive cycle, right time of year. There are ways to get even below invoice price.
What I think is beautiful is, again, we've already said sort of the internet is your friend. You can actually go in there and see what other folks are paying for that same vehicle in your area. There's a number of online resources you can use to do that. So don't think that when you walk up to the dealership, the 2 prices that are on the sticker, the price that they tell you, are the prices you have to pay. You can come equipped with knowledge. Again, if you just take that little bit extra, you'll set yourself up for a benefit.
So remember, the first component of the 3 components we're going to talk about on how they try to price vehicles is purchase price. I want to give you one more caution on this.
Okay.
Because dealers have gotten even, it's kind of crazy. I even have to say this. You'll see the MSRP, and then to the right of it, you'll see things that they've done at the dealership to increase the price.
Oh, yeah.
This is essentially the undercarriage coating, because you'll see etching of your windows.
Uh-huh.
You'll see, that they'll put. I mean, it's
a bunch of ridiculous stuff that there's no way you pay for.
Every bit of all the things that are on there are typically negotiable because they're all high margin type things that the dealership has done. So don't just assume, hey, I got to pay that too. Just because the dealer did it doesn't mean you should have to pay for it.
All right, so purchase price is the first thing you need to understand. The second thing you need to understand is trade-in. For most of us, when it's time for us to go buy a new car or potentially buy a used car, but we're going to buy from a lot, they offer an incentive. Well, hey, if you have your car, we'll actually buy it from you. They're not kind. They're not doing this because they just want to be generous to you. They recognize, hey, if you sell me your car, we can go sell it to someone else and we can make more than we're going to pay you for it. So you really need to understand the value of the car that you may be trading in.
Well, car dealerships know they have a slight advantage on trade-ins because remember, this is the second component. They know that one of the reasons you'll do a trade-in is because whatever in most states, I don't want to say all states because it might be a little different where you live, but in most states, when you trade in, it's essentially like a like-kind exchange. You're trading in a vehicle. They'll let you exempt out of a portion of the sales tax on the purchase. So that's actually a benefit to you, but that should not be such a benefit that the offer that they give you is so low that it negates the benefit. So that's one of those things. Here's a tip for you guys. Use services, go on the internet and go to places like Kelley Blue Book. That's KBB.com. And they'll show you multiple prices. I think you can do this on Edmunds as well, where you can get what a private party sell, or what a dealer is going to try to sell it to you for, what a private party sell is, and then what dealer trade-in is. Go look at those things and then look at the difference between that private party and the dealer to see if that sales tax adjustment on that purchase price is worth it, or if the convenience is worth it that you're not trying to sell it yourself. You've got to pay attention to those things because it comes into play. And a good way, if you want to go ahead and just know if it's a good price, show up. Remember, an ounce of preparation is going to save you tons of money. Go to CarMax or go to Carvana and see what your car, get a quote on your car before you go to the dealership to see what the trade-in is, and you can then compare and contrast what you can easily go sell it for at CarMax versus what the trade-in, and see if that sales tax adjustment warrants working with the dealership.
Now, I have found in my personal car buying experience, this is where I have the most flexibility. If I need to get that extra $500, that extra $1,000 to make the deal really make sense for me, meaning I feel good that I got a good deal, I usually am able to do that on my trade-in, because the dealer might say, hey, look, we literally cannot sell this car for any less. We're at the bottom price we can sell it to you for. And I'd be like, great, awesome, I understand that. Why don't you give me an extra $500 on my trade-in and we'll sign the paperwork and I'll get out of here. That works sometimes. So just understand, it's another place that you can squeeze the balloon, because ultimately what you care about is how much money is coming out of your back pocket. You could care less if it's in purchase price or trade-in value. They're roughly the same to you, minus the sales tax offset.
Yeah, you said something. I want to make sure nobody takes for granted when we use sayings. You said squeeze the balloon. Everybody recognize, I want you to have a visual with this, guys, is that when you're dealing with a car purchase, a vehicle purchase, it is the balloon. And like I said, there's three components. It doesn't matter. You could basically take a balloon and think of a balloon that you're doing, that you could fold into animals, turn into a balloon dog or something like that. You know, when you go to the restaurant and the guy's making this or the lady's making it, you can look at this big balloon, assuming you're not bending it all up. It's just a big, long balloon that you're leaving a little space at the end so that you can do all the bending. If you drew with a permanent marker, a line for purchase price, put another line over here, and that middle part would be trade-in, and then over here on the right's the financing. It's all the same balloon, but you can squeeze it in each one of those different components. It's still the same balloon. It's just a matter of where you squeezed and put the pressure. And that's exactly what Bo's talking about. When he says, when you squeeze the balloon, he's talking about you could ask for another $500 here. And you might be able to take advantage of that.
That's exactly right. So then the third component of buying a car is the financing. Now, this one I think is really interesting, because I think this has changed over time. But this is basically where they say, hey, how are you going to pay for this car? Are you going to write us a check, or are you going to finance it? In my opinion, you may disagree with this, I always think this should be the last step. I never actually let it out of the bag, whether I'm financing or paying cash, until I've already gotten my drive out price.
I completely agree with that, because I will tell you guys, this is getting to be a bigger profit center than other places. I was at a Halloween party this weekend, and one of the people there is a pilot who also, he owns the company that does the leasing of people who buy shares in jets and planes and things like that. And we were talking about big manufacturers like the Boeings, the Airbuses. And he said they have gotten to the point where they don't necessarily make their money on the plane. They make their money on the length of the financing. They've turned into banks in a lot of ways. So that's why when we have like a pandemic, it's the future orders that actually is really impacting them. Guys, it's the same way with cars. That's why when we start doing show prep, I want to give you a perfect example of what I'm talking about. If you pull up and we look at 2009, you can see that the profit on the car was $837. So when a dealer sold a car in 2009, they made approximately $837 for the sale of that car. Fast forward to 2019, they're making $381. You're like,
Well,
oh my gosh.
How are dealerships not going out of money? Look how much
it's so
less money
sad.
they're making.
That's so sad. That must be because of the internet and jerks like Brian and Bo that are telling everybody how to make money off of get the best deal on dealerships. Those poor dealerships are getting rocked by those jerks at the Money Guy show who are telling everybody how to get the best deal possible. Before you go and create a support group for the dealerships out there, there has been a change in the industry. Look at this. I thought this was shocking. They still make the same money. They actually make a little bit more because financing has made up the difference. In 2009, they typically made about $516 on each car that came through there from financing. Fast forward to now, it's almost $1,000 on every vehicle is from finance, and they're becoming banks.
Yep.
It's becoming more profitable to be a bank than it is to be an auto manufacturer or to be a dealership. And you see that with how much of the profit actually comes from you financing directly through the dealership
Now, what I
and the
think-
manufacturers.
Again, we have this live chat going on, and people are just asking this question. Okay, so what should I pay cash? Should I finance? Should I pay cash? Should I finance? Should I pay cash? Should I finance? Which one gets you the best deal?
Well, it's kind of shocking because this one's contrary to what the world thinks because it's changed. As this slide shows you, in 2009, it very likely could have been you got a much better deal paying cash. Fast forward to 2019, 2020, they want you to finance to give you the best deal because they get incentives from the manufacturer who's also got the finance or banking arm of the manufacturer business. So here's what I know from buying cars from a traditional, manufacturers and dealerships. When I bought my wife's last car, me and the dealer, the sales manager, worked out a deal that I would finance, even though I planned on paying cash for this vehicle, and I would keep the loan for 2 months. That's what he made me promise.
Now,
Keep
Brian,
this loan open for 2 months so I get my incentive from the manufacturer on this loan, and I can give you this much more off of the purchase.
that sounds insane.
Yeah.
Hey, I want to pay cash, but no, don't just pay us 2 months of interest, and then we'll do this deal. It'll be a better deal, and you can just pay it off.
Oh, and
after
by the
2
way,
months.
the deal was better than the interest. I mean, it's not
Unbelievable.
like, so, I mean, it's unique. As you can see from the slide of where dealers make their money, more of it's coming from financing than actually selling the car to you. So, of course, that makes sense. I mean, times are changing. Just make sure you understand this stuff when you're buying a vehicle.
So we wanted to throw out some tips and tricks for you to think about on like how to actually get a good deal. What are some things you should think about? And here's the first one. This, I thought this was common knowledge, but then when I talked to a lot of my friends, they didn't realize this. Buy at the end of the month or end of the year, especially if there's a new model year coming out. One of my favorite things to do is I don't have to have, like we're right here at the end of 2020. I don't have to go buy a 2021. I'm going to be pretty happy if I have a brand new 2020. And if I know they're trying to unload that inventory, a lot of times at the end of the month or end of the year or end of the model year, you can get a better deal by picking up those late year models.
I thought it, because I love it when Daniel gives us nerdy little facts to throw in there, little tidbits that you can file away. Feel free to use this at your upcoming Thanksgiving and Christmas parties. The month that has the biggest MSRP discount is the month of December.
Shocking.
So, I mean, I'm just telling you, this ties in when we say buy at the end of the month or at the end of the year. It is
There's a
supported by
reason
the
why.
fact that the biggest month for the biggest discounts on MSRP, manufacturers, sucky, rip-off price. I should have said stupid. That's a less offensive word.
Well, it just sounds more adult, I guess.
It's all right.
Here's the second thing that you can do. Now, this one again seems silly. Ask for extras. I always, now that I have kids, I realize just how valuable all-season floor mats in. And dare I say, I'll never drive another car that doesn't have all-season floor mats. But I don't want to pay the dealership $250, $350, whatever they charge for it. So I always make sure, as one of the last little bargaining chips I say is, hey, look, if you throw in the mats, I'm happy to take off and get out of your hair, and we'll do this. So you can do that with floor mats. You can do it with oil change or services, or you can have some swag thrown in.
That's a boat.
I don't
bow
know
add-in.
who would want that, but if
That's a
you're
bow.
buying a Tesla thing and you want a Tesla shirt,
They didn't give me a Tesla shirt.
see that you didn't do it right. See, had he listened to the show, he would have done it better. But there are things you can ask to them to throw in that will help. Again, you're squeezing the balloon. You just care about the dollars coming out of your back pocket.
Just to give you the why on these things, they can do these things because they're high profit, high margin type things that they can throw into the deal. It doesn't cost them much money.
Yep.
You can't buy at the same prices for those floor mats that they can, so it doesn't cost them much to throw that in. Same thing on services. It's expensive, especially nowadays with these synthetic oils that the manufacturers are requiring on these fancier cars. It's very easy for them to say, yeah, we'll give you a few free oil changes than it is for you to pay for those oil changes. So take advantage of that. It's not costing them much, but it's really benefiting you in the long term. There's an arbitrage situation there.
So it sounds like, Brian, we've gone through this and we're like, okay, do your work, do your research, ask for this, do this, do this. It's very active, this car buying process.
It is a lot of work.
And so somebody might be saying, I don't know, guys. I want my car. I don't want to go through all that. Now, but I'm a mutant, so I can't just go pay MSRP. Is there a solution out there for me?
Yeah, you just, it's one of those things. Pay somebody to do this for you. I mean, and by the way, it's not even as expensive as you would think.
Sure.
If you're a member of Costco, they have a car buying service. I can tell you, when I checked into it, it appears from my research, works really well with domestic manufacturers. So if you're buying from a domestic manufacturer, look at Costco. It might be a way for you just to go ahead and get a good price locked in right there.
These are car buying services. Well, they'll actually go out. You tell them, I want this car, this make, this model, these options, and they'll actually go do the search for you, and they'll actually find different dealerships willing to play ball and do different deals. So they're kind of serve as a go-between that are working on your behalf for your benefit, right?
No doubt. And then the other one we put on here was car bargains.
Sure.
I mean, I've heard actually what's interesting, if anybody's gone and watched some of our older shows, I used to talk about TrueCar and other things, but according to Car Bargains, now realize this is on their website, so take it with, they do have a bias on making sure that their data is good, but they had listed that they get about a $1,500 better deal versus TrueCar prices just by using theirs, and it's about $250 to use them.
Anecdotally, that's not incredibly surprising because just since we mentioned TrueCar, I do feel like I used to use TrueCar a lot, and it used to be a lot more beneficial, I think, than it has been recently. So I could believe that there's probably another player in there that can perhaps get you an even better deal.
And then we put this one because I actually did this on my second new car. This has been in some time, but I was really impressed at the service. We have a friend down at Peach State Credit Union in Georgia. They had a car buying service.
That's right.
So, it was one of those things they offered it to all their members and did a pretty good job because they were running enough volume that they had connections with all the major dealerships in the area. And it was, once again, another set price.
Yep.
So those relationships paid for. If you don't feel comfortable doing this, you might have a connection or relationship that'll help you do this and get a better deal than you could do for yourself.
See, what I think is beautiful is the name of the game is Army of Dollar Bills. That's what we're working towards here. We're all trying to figure out how can we get as many soldiers into our army of dollar bills as possible. There's another financial guy that we know. He always talks about, hey, don't worry about the lattes. That's not where you're screwing it up. Worry about the big purchases. One of those big purchases is buying a car. We're all faced with it. We all have to do it. If you can be a financial mutant that can stretch your dollars 5-10% further than your peers, that's going to be more soldiers that you can put in your army earlier to help you work towards financial independence sooner. It's just one piece of the big financial life puzzle.
And that's actually a great closing in the fact that, because a lot of people, I think, fall prey to the marketing arm of the auto industry because they are one of the biggest advertising purchasers in the country. I think that they're right there with, domestic beer.
I was going to say beer,
pharma, big pharma, but they're right there, car manufacturers. Don't fall susceptible to the marketing guys. You need to know when and where should I put every dollar. You want to be a good field general. We have a great free deliverable.
Yep.
If you'll go to moneyguy.com/resources, there is a free deliverable for the financial order of operations. There is an instruction manual for your dollars. And by the way, if you look at this and you need even more detail, we also offer a course that will give you worksheets. It'll also give you gentle nudges on all the things you need to be thinking about, as well as personalized commentary from us. But here's the thing. You might even get to a situation, you've made it through the financial order of operations, but you've started small. The abundance cycle's taken hold where you came here, 14 years ago. You learned, applied applied the concepts and grew your assets, and now you're at the point you need a true financial advisor to kind of take you beyond the do-it-yourself, consider Abound Wealth. We work with clients all across the country. That is the Abundance Cycle. That's what I love about doing this show is we give you completely free of charge great information, knowing complexity will come find you naturally. You don't have to go seek it. It's going to happen just by becoming successful, and you'll have a great partner to help you work through whatever questions you have as long as you make it through the process.
Go check out our websites, moneyguy.com and aboundwealth.com. If you've not subscribed on YouTube, make sure that you subscribe and go crush that like button.
No. Okay. Money Guy team out.